Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about Notre Dame, but first of all, I want to know from my audience, who are you people? Who are you? Why do you listen to me? Why do you care what I think? Anyway, you should listen to what I think. So we're going to be talking about Notre Dame today. This crazy lady thinks it's a conspiracy. Let's look into it.
And I think perhaps the best place for me to begin this video about the significance of the cathedral fire in Paris is to take you to the Twitter page of the Boston Globe, where exactly 6 years ago today, which is the event we would call the Boston bombing, the Boston Globe had foreknowledge of the event, where their tweet on Twitter still remains to this day, where they tweeted out, "Breaking news, police will have controlled explosion on the 600 block on Boylston Street." People, the dates of April 15th to April 20th have had...
Well, this is suspicious, and I would like an explanation. It doesn't sit quite right with me, but again, this isn't a pre-reporting of the Boston bombing. This could be a coincidence. I think it's happened a couple of times where there's just been an attack near some area where the military or the police were doing an exercise. And actually, you'd expect that to happen a couple of times. You wouldn't, if it happens every single time, sure. And I think there's some weird stuff about reporting 9/11 early, and I'm definitely a bit of a truther for 9/11, but we can get into that another time. Basically, I just think the Bush administration ignored it. And the Saudis were part of it, and of course we covered up their part of it. Anyway, this for a skeptic could just be a coincidence, so it's a little suspicious. I'd like an explanation, but it's by no means damning to me.
Had significant value to the enemy of the people, to on the 600 block on Boylston Street. People, the dates of April 15th to April 20th have had significant value to the enemy of the people of God and to humanity for the last handful of years.
Why would that be? Why are the dates significant other than sentimentality or some kind of magic? And by the way, there's been attacks outside of that. In fact, again, 9/11 did not fall in that date range. You're just picking a specific date range. I'm sure there's a disaster that's happened on every single day of every single year. This is a big world full of lots of violent people. Why is this date range so significant?
Let me remind you of a few of the events that have involved fire and explosion between April 15th.
Fire and explosion. Again, 9/11 falls outside this date range. Why was 9/11 not part of this conspiracy?
And April 20th, just over the last handful of years. They include the fire at Waco, Texas, the Oklahoma City bombing,
So these are all connected, but 9/11 is not.
Columbine, Deepwater Horizon explosion, just to name a few, and every single one of those events are plagued with anomalies.
And half of them aren't terrorism. Or are you saying like Deepwater Horizon was terrorism? Waco was, I guess you could call the government terrorists in that situation, but that's not how it's legally defined. What is the connective tissue here, and why are so many disasters, including the major one, 9/11, not connected to this?
As significant as this particular tweet, which remains on the Twitter page of the Boston Globe, where with foreknowledge of the quote-unquote controlled explosion, which ended up being a terrorist attack, they literally tweeted out minutes before.
Well, it doesn't seem like foreknowledge because they're predicting it's a controlled explosion. Could be in a celebratory event for that race. So you might just be drawing similarities where there really aren't any, which is typical of conspiracy theorists. again, I'm not averse to conspiracies. I believe there was a conspiracy to cover up a lot of elements of 9/11.
Saying police will have controlled explosion on the 600 block on Boylston Street. Now, if you're not familiar with my channel, you may not know that the reason I started a little YouTube channel, it was called Truth, back in the day, was because
Just truth.
I had done some investigation into what is called the Fort McMurray and the Canyon fires, where I had noticed that the devastation that had happened in these fires was just outrageous. Entire neighborhoods were flattened.
That's the thing about fire. It burns stuff to the ground.
Flattened. They were dustified, just like what we had seen in September 11th. The debris field of these fires was like nothing anybody had ever seen before. It was, cars were turned upside down. There was not a toilet. There was not a granite countertop. Nothing was left. And of the many things that reminded me of exactly what we saw in September 11th was this: white smoke. That is not what you see in a forest fire. That is not what you see in a structural fire. That is something that is not normal at all.
That's pretty normal. All you have to do is do a really quick search for a house and white smoke. Let's see, here's one. Here's another one. Here's one with both white and black smoke. Wow. It's just a normal house. Another house with white smoke coming out of it. Watch, we're going to do it right now. Google.com. White smoke house fire. There's another one. These are some of the ones that we saw earlier. Another new one. White smoke. So this seems pretty normal to me.
So in the first video I did a whole bunch of slideshows, and I walked through and pointed out these anomalies of the Fort McMurray fire and the Canyon fire.
Not an anomaly. We just saw that it's not anomalous. I just demonstrated it. There's, unless you want to contend that those were all artificial images.
And within just a year or two of me posting that video, all the crazy stuff that started happening in California fires, where the exact same debris field of nothing but dustified buildings remained, came true and started happening. So, since I have been covering these strange fires where you see this orange glow, which is like the orange glow here that we see in the background of September 11th fire. If you look here where this gal is standing in this thing, you see the strange orange glow. You know,
strange orange glow, almost as if there's a fire.
That there was this weird orange glow that happened in September 11th.
It's so strange. I've never seen fire glow orange before.
It marked the way that the building burned, and yet the building itself was just consumed in this white smoke, just like what I saw in the Fort McMurray fires and in the Canyon fires. Itself was just consumed in this
That's actually gray and black smoke right there. You're just seeing what you want to see.
White smoke, just like what I saw in the Fort McMurray fires and in the Canyon fires. And I've been pointing this
and in several house fires that I just showed you
out in my channel in the California fires and all that for a long time, because what you actually see in a house fire is black smoke. What you see in a structural fire, an open air fire where you're burning carbon, is you will see soot from the
Do we need to do it again? I think let's do it again. White smoke.
Burned material in the wildly inefficient combustion process of an open air fire. You don't have to be a physics major or a chemistry major to understand that an open air combustion fire is very inefficient, and soot is what makes this black. It's just the incomplete burnt pieces of on a very small level that are being blown up into the air. That's what the smoke is. And yet we didn't see black in any of the structural fires of the Fort McMurray or the Canyon fire or the California fire. So when I got a phone call today asking me if I knew that Notre Dame was on fire, the first question I asked was, what color is the smoke and what color is the flames? Were the flames this electrified plasma color orange? Or were we going to see something that looked more like a house fire? This deeper orange that you see in a real...
It's not a deeper orange. It's just that the fire is outside of the building.
Fire that we can document. There's hundreds of these normal fires that have been recorded. Or were we going to see something that looked more like this electric flame here? Unfortunately, folks, it's the electric flame. What we see here.
Unfortunately, it's the electric flame. We're seeing, look at this, right here. Flame, open flame, open flame, open flame, open flame. And look at here, right here. There's some black smoke. Oh, and right here, black smoke. Man, this girl's just not paying attention. She only sees what she wants to see.
It's the electric flame. What we see here in the Notre Dame.
What is... So this is what you... This part.
Pictures is something that looks more like arc welding. And the white flame, the white the white smoke and almost a yellowish green smoke. There is something here, folks, going on that is not normal.
Almost
this is
a yellowish
normal.
green.
This is not normal. I want to take you here to an image of this particular...
Ah, you just showed open flame.
I want to take you here to an image of this. This is not
You
normal.
see
I
that
want to
bright
take
orange?
you here to
Bright
an
yellow?
image of this particular...
Now it's dark orange. Interesting.
Grid here that shows you every single line of this particular piece of structure. Every single inch of it is on fire.
Those are the roof struts on fire.
This looks more like the brick.
Look, you can see the naked flame. It's bright yellow. This is not an electric flame. This is what an arc welder looks like. I saw no sparks like this. There were a couple sparks like floating up, the embers, not sparks, and there was no blue or white.
Briquettes in a hibachi grill after the grill has been seasoned and burning for about 45 minutes. It takes...
You know what wood turns into when it's burning? Charcoal. Do you see? Look at this. Trees on fire turning into charcoal briquettes. Look at this. Look at that. Look right here up at the top. It's all turning black and continuing to be on fire. The silhouette of the tree remains. Let's see. So while it burns, it turns into charcoal, and that charcoal, look at this, right here. It's on fire over here, turning into charcoal. Charcoal still has embers, still has glowing orange in it. Still retains its shape, even though it could crumble if you touch it. Look at this. It's look at those beautiful embers. Wood turns into charcoal, and charcoal burns. And briquettes are made of wood. It's really no surprise. This all looks pretty normal to me.
It's time to get every single inch of the briquettes on fire, and yet, you guys, these are not chemically treated. In fact, let's take a look here.
Right, they're not chemically treated, so it's dry wood, catches on fire, and as we know, wood will continue to burn embers long after the flames have actively gone out, and during. That's exactly what we're seeing here, and it's a dark orange.
These are not chemically treated. In fact, let's take a look here at the spire. Every inch of the internal structural components of this building, on the outside, on the inside, in the spire, the entire thing, it's like it's been electrocuted.
It's when have you electrocuted wood? I know a bunch of wood stacked like that, especially with a little bit of space between it, will go up like a tinder box, because it is tinder. That's what wood does. It burns.
These are not flames. This is some sort of an arcing.
They're clearly different colors. These are not flames. Is this, this isn't a flame, but is this a flame? Same color, same process. This is exactly what happens when a wooden frame is on fire. In fact, let's just Google wooden frame on fire. Well, let's wait for that to load up.
Electromagnetic weirdness with a yellow, greenish, white smoke. And it's not just in
Weirdness. This is what our arc flame looks like. It's not a flame either.
one picture. It's in all of them, you guys. It's critical
What
to
about that open flame right there?
recognize what is.
This is just fire that's obscured by some smoke. This is what's tripping you up. Look, here's the same thing down here in the corner. Dark orange, less smoke. Looks, it's an open flame. That's fire. You just think because it's light and bright that it's not fire for some reason.
What they're showing us. People, this is not normal.
Open flame, open flame, open flame, dark orange.
There's something very weird happening here, and we have
There's nothing weird happening.
to recognize this and be willing to confront.
Other than somehow some idiot caught something on fire. But as you probably well know, once something really, something substantial is really boiling with flames, it can catch other stuff on fire pretty easy. And it's going to keep going.
The uncertainty of this and just say, I know what they're telling us isn't true, and let me show you a couple of things.
Why do you know what they're telling us isn't true? And why would they lie about this? They've reported terror attacks before.
That they're telling us that aren't true. They declared this building to be an entire loss within 100 minutes.
Did they? Or is this just talking about the roof? You know, I can't tell. I'm not just going to take your word for it now because you're telling me that flame isn't flame.
Of the flame starting. This is within 100 minutes of this fire starting. They declared everything is burning. Nothing will remain from the frame. And if you look at the frame
Of the roof, and the roof burnt away. That's what we saw was on fire.
and if you look at the frame of the building that I just showed you here, where you see every single inch of this, every single inch of every single structural support is quite literally on fire. Look at that.
Yeah. See, when fire touches wood, it catches on fire. See, here's your light flame again, but it's clearly a naked flame. Is that an electric arc?
How did this happen? I've only seen this one time in the entire world what I've ever looked at this, and this happens to be what we saw in the people driving out of the California fires, where these trees, I'm gonna hit play here, and I want you to look at this, where these trees are engulfed. I mean, they're like the briquettes that you see in a hibachi grill. This is not normal. This is not what happens to trees in a normal outdoor fire, guys. The trees catch on fire and the flame goes. The entire tree and all the structure of the building does not turn into this.
That was incoherent. It catches fire and the flame goes. What did you say?
Tree and all the structure of the building does not turn into this briquette-like flame. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm in a hibachi grill. This is not normal. This is not what happens to trees in a normal outdoor fire, guys. The trees catch on fire and the flame goes. The entire tree and all the structure of
What does that even mean? The trees catch on fire and the flame goes? So it burns off the branches and the leaves. And then what? Then the flame just goes out? No. Fire remains and keeps burning it into embers. This is fairly normal. In fact, it's what happens every time you put a log on any fire.
The building does not turn into this briquette-like flame. Now,
see, this is the mind of a conspiracy theorist, of a pseudoscientist, of someone suffering from Dunning-Kruger effect. You can literally show them wooden supports burning, and they'll sit there and tell you it's not on fire, that's not fire, it's not burning. That doesn't happen when wood catches on fire. This is... it's just astounding. I wish I could just have a peek inside this kind of mind that can so delude themselves.
I'm not going to say that I know what happened. So there'll be a lot of people out here that are going to be telling you that this is, directed energy weapons. They're going to say these are lasers. And there's a lot of evidence that we have had some weapons over the last decade or so that could do something like this. But my point is not to actually ask what is doing this, but to point you to the truth.
Well, that would be important because you're saying it's burning wood differently than actual fire. So even a directed energy weapon would still catch stuff. It's not creating a new type of fire. It's just really hot. Like, what?
Of who is behind this, because there's no doubt about that, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. First, let me take you to some other things that need to be pointed out about the news coverage here, and I want you to recognize that somehow the deputy mayor of Paris worked with the people at this cathedral to remove the artwork.
Somehow, oh my God, somehow the deputy mayor and other people went inside the church and got stuff out of it.
In time, and he's going to tell us that he had time to do that. But and yet at the exact same news conference, they admitted that within 100 minutes they knew everything was burning and nothing will remain from the frame of the fire, which means this fire...
I could be wrong, but I believe that's talking about the roof, because that is the wooden structure of the building, right?
Spread with such rapidity. And let me put this into perspective, guys. I went to a mall in Chandler, Arizona over Christmas. I don't usually go to the mall, but just to give you an idea of how big, I've been to Notre Dame. I've been to Paris. I have stayed across the street from this in a beautiful hotel. It was a beautiful building. The size of this building is hard to imagine if you've never been there. It's like what I can only compare it to the spread of the Chandler Mall, where you have the Nordstroms at one end and the JCPenney on the other. It would be...
It's not as big as a mall. I've been there too.
Like a fire starting in the shoe department in Nordstrom, and within 100 minutes, them saying that JCPenney was a total disaster.
No, it's like a fire starting in Nordstrom's, spreading to the roof, and then within 100 minutes, them saying the roof is going to collapse because the entire thing is on fire.
It's a long, long, long distance for these fires to have spread if that were the case. And yet, obviously...
Not really. It's not even as big as a Nordstrom's.
Obviously, guys, what we're seeing here is not a normal fire, because every single inch of the structural integrity of the building is what caught on fire, which it's not even...
The rapidity, is that what you have a problem with? That it's all on fire at the same time? That it doesn't collapse the second the outside of it catches on fire? Now, look at this. It has to be burning for a long time to burn down to its core. A long time. This thing is half roasted through, and it's still standing up. You've clearly never watched logs burn in a campfire or something, because they shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink, and then when they're really small, then they break apart. And that's after the fire has spread to all of them.
Catching on fire, as I'm showing you.
You notice that the top here, that's not quite on fire. This kind of gray part that's facing us, sides of it are on fire. The bottom's more on fire. There's parts of the structure that are not on fire yet.
These have
But yeah, flames go upwards, so the more it burns, the quicker it's going to spread.
become briquettes of carbon for fodder of fire. So let me just point out one more time. He said that
when you burn wood, guess what it becomes? Charcoal. And it retains its shape. Go get a campfire or something. Retains its shape until it gets completely carbonized, and then it falls apart. It's really fragile.
that the building frame was demolished and there was nothing remaining of the frame within 100 minutes of the fire starting. And yet, I want you to listen to the deputy mayor of Paris talk about how they had time to get all the precious stuff that they could out of the cathedral.
But do you have any sense whether any of the artwork or artifacts inside have been saved?
Well, the Ministry of Culture and our services and the Louvre department have been cooperating to make sure that everything that can be saved and moved has been moved. We have been sending trucks from the City Department of Transportation, and you know, the collaboration between the state and between the City of Paris is very, very close and very tight tonight.
Sure.
So things are being under control.
So some things have been taken out of the church then? Some things have been rescued?
Yes. Some paintings, and yes, there have been elements, you know, being taken away, because when it started, it started at the roof. So there was, you know, the reaction of the bishop team and I would say, so there was, you know, the reaction of yes, there have been elements, you know, being taken away, because when it started at the roof.
I think he just said when it started on the roof. So people went in and got some shit while the roof was on fire. Is that hard to believe?
So there was, you know, the reaction of the bishop team and I would say the administration, of course, to react,
yes,
to protect, you know, the values they could take out. So they did.
Well, that's good to hear, because we didn't know whether anything at all had been saved from the church. So that is wonderful to hear that at least some things.
There are many things being saved and transported.
Okay.
Have been and being. People are still going in.
This should be chilling to you people. This was a fire that started on the roof. There is no way a normal fire starting on the roof could not have been put out. You guys, this building caught on fire in history and they stopped it when all they were working with was buckets. There's no reason with today's modern technology that this fire beginning on the roof could not have been stopped. There's no way. This is absolutely absurd. It is important for you people to...
And you know that there's no way. Why do you think that? I think it's a little strange, but I'm not just going to leap straight to, oh, it's impossible. There's no way. How can you possibly make a claim that's with that much confidence? Unless you're some kind of fire expert.
Look at what is actually burning. I'm going to show you that what is actually burning here, guys, is the interior, the frame of the building. Every single inch of this building has been turned into briquettes. There's something, and I say briquettes like charcoal. Okay, there's something super wicked going on here. Super wicked. The only thing that we can do to make sense of this, guys, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they used directed energy weapons or if it was some strange, controlled demolition or whatever people want to say. You know, even if you want to say this was a cigarette butt, it doesn't matter how this fire started. What you have to know, folks, is that it would be impossible for the folks at the Louvre to go get a truck to pull all the stuff out of there within 100 minutes before the place was declared a disaster. There is obviously something else happening here. Now, if you don't want to recognize the obvious, then please turn this video off and go watch your mainstream media news. But before you do, at least consider what I'm saying here.
So I don't believe it was ever set on fire before. It was attacked and looted. And if the roof, if something else caught on fire, maybe it was easier to put out. So yeah, your story is not really holding up.
That we have the explanation in the scriptures. Our God has been wonderful enough.
Your God said how Notre Dame was set on fire? Oh wait, you're just interpreting something that has no specificity at all.
To give us the explanation of what we're looking at. What we're looking at, you guys, is spiritual warfare that has been
How do you know? Every church that's ever been set on fire is spiritual warfare predicted by the Bible? What?
Manifested into this real world scenario. The prince of the power of the air, you guys, is Satan. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against
Hail Satan.
Princes of darkness, the principalities of darkness, of spiritual wickedness in high places. And what the Bible explains in Ephesians 6 is that there's only one way to fight this. As many people are going to say, oh, this has to do with directed energy weapons and many other things that they're going to come up with. No. What the Bible tells us, you guys, is that there is only one way to fight this battle, and that is with the full armor of God. So let me tell you what the full armor of God is. The full armor of God consists of the helmet of salvation, which has to do with being saved by the Lord Jesus Christ, who laid down his life to make atonement for your sins, and your faith in him and his work on the cross that covers your sins. That's the helmet of salvation. It's the breastplate of righteousness. It's the girdle of truth. Your loins girt about with the truth. Your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Your sword of truth, which is the only weapon we have in our arsenal. That is the word of God, the actual logos of God, which is the word made flesh. It's the word of Jesus Christ. And the shield of faith. Those are the only weapons in our arsenal. If you are not aware of what the Bible teaches about spiritual warfare, you need to learn, because that is what we're witnessing here. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, against the rulers of darkness of this world. And that, my friends, is what we're looking at here. And it's time to recognize that these wicked rulers in high places are backed by Satan. That is the only explanation for why this stuff is actually happening and what we're actually seeing. And
So, you think Satan set the fire? What's going on there? Is it a directed energy weapon, or is it a Satan fire? And so nice of God to just let him set it on fire.
if you're foolish enough to believe that this has to do with humans, that this is just some spiritual, this has nothing to do with spiritual stuff, that this has to do with humans, you guys are going to get lost in this. And the bigger issue, you guys, is that God gave us these explanations for things in the Bible so that we can have eternal life through Jesus Christ and the forgiveness of our sins, so that we can be free of this bondage that we have to this present evil world. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys, and I will keep you posted if I come across any other details of interest. So have a good night.
The moment of truth, it is right here, the heart.
Okay, so that was interesting. I guess I'll just wrap it up. They really just want to see a conspiracy, so they'll find any excuse they can. They'll point out the color. The color is not consistent with what they say. They'll point out the color, the color of the smoke, the color of the fire. It had both black and white smoke coming out of it. Had both dark and light flames, naked and obscured. I knew there was going to be conspiracies based on this, though. I was just waiting for him to come along, and I really wanted to do a response to one of the conspiracies. I was kind of hoping that there would be evidence, My first reaction was that it was terrorism. That was my first gut instinct. But again, I require evidence, because I'm not just going to believe it just because. So, show me the evidence. This girl's evidence was extremely weak.